Now, we want to talk about the BBC News theme music because it is 25 years old and the man who composed it is David Lowe. He's been explaining to us how he went about making it.
We were just talking about sounds that we'd heard that were sort of in a brainstorming type meeting of sounds. And one of the sounds that came up as a recognisable sound was, of course, the Greenwich time signal pips. So this is the pips sound. And
Love it.
I just thought, yeah, that's a really good sound because it's pure and it's singular in direction. It also gives an idea of accuracy and reliability, and which is one of the things that we were looking for the news. So I thought I could add a dance beat to it, and create a piece of music using that sound. So then I thought, well, and then I got back to my studio and I'd sort of got the idea in my head, when I sat down. So the next thing I did was a bass line. And the bass line gives the feeling of strength and depth, and it's also got a very sort of world feel because it's called a tresillo beat, and you hear it in Latin America, in Africa, and India. So it gives a sense of a globalness to it, and then of course having the bass drum, bringing in that sort of feel, the beat happening there, and then and we wanted a big sound to herald the headlines coming in. So I thought, big drums, that's the way to go. And I wanted a sound that you could use at any time, and it could be re-triggered. So no matter how long the headline is, you can re-trigger it. And the way they use it now, it's quite random. It's not actually musical. They sort of bring it in randomly, but that gives almost a sense of urgency, more than having it reliably sort of musical. And then the next part was quite a tricky bit because it was the chords. And of course the chords for music are the most emotional bit. They're the ones that give you the emotional hit. And so for news, obviously it's got to be quite neutral. You can't have it too happy or too sad. And so I chose these two chords, minor to major, in very simple, but a beautiful sort of chord change. And the pip stays on the same note all the way through, so it's got this singular direction, and then you've got the sort of anxiety with a minor chord there going into a sort of major feel, which is calmness. And
this is fantastic. Yeah. I ought to say, by the way, there's a version of you doing this online. We've stolen the idea. That version has gone viral. Hopefully this one will too. But I do want to bring in Victor Vlam, who's a Dutch news journalist and news theme expert and founder of the website Network News Music, just to tell us, Victor, the impact of this sort of a thing, the impact of the BBC News theme tune.
It's been huge. Sometimes I jokingly say that pop music was never the same after the Beatles. News music hasn't been the same since David Lowe. And the reason for that is because he's been very influential. Basically, in the 1990s, news music tended to sound the same. It was very formulaic. So there were lots of brass instruments that played a short but recognizable melody. There were some strings to add a sense of urgency and some timpani to give it some gravitas. And that was the basic ingredients for every single news theme. And here along comes David Lowe, who completely goes into a different direction, who essentially uses music that is most familiar from nightclubs and adapts that as a news theme. That was just revolutionary. And the amazing thing is that a lot of European broadcasters and broadcasters around the world have adopted this style. So lots of them are adopting, for example, the pips, even though they may not be familiar with the pips in those countries. But all the electronic elements are used in many different countries. So it's been very influential.
Thank you very much indeed to both of you. Very good to have you on the media show.